My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Welcome to Farm Year Daily, a field-forward podcast. I'm David Geiger, your host. I've been on Iowa TV and radio for the last decade and excited to join you with this new podcast, Farm Here Daily. Today on the program, we're going to chat about the situation of carbon capture in Iowa. Joe Heinrich with Smart Carbon Network joins us to go over that. Then we'll have a conversation with Terry Basol, Northeast Iowa agronomist for ISU Extension, about crop emergence and some of the pest pressures in his neck of the woods. Please be sure to like and follow this podcast as well as our social media at Field Forward Pod. We would love to have you join our community, keeping folks in Iowa informed about what is affecting our farmers. This is Farm Here Daily. And joining us on Farm Here Daily, we have Joe Heinrich, CEO of Smart Carbon Network and also a farmer in East Central Iowa. I've had the pleasure of talking with Joe many times over the course of my career doing farm broadcasting, and I'm glad to have you join us on Farm Here Daily today. Joe, how are you doing?
Just great. And I always enjoy getting to visit with you. So look forward to visiting a little today, and I'm glad we're rained out over here in eastern Iowa. We were definitely ready for a little moisture.
Did you get all the planting done before that moisture?
Yeah. I would say things are pretty much wrapped up. It was just a different type of spring because when you keep seeing the 7-day forecast and they're not talking any rain, we probably could have gotten it in a little quicker, but with no rain coming, it wasn't as big of a rush. We still got done around the 12th, so we were in good shape, but and there's been some replant over here, guys who started a little earlier than us, and the beans kind of struggled to come up in a few places. We had some that we were holding our breath until about 2 days ago when
a little crusting
got here. A lot of little things like that. Hay has already started over here. Had several neighbors already cutting hay. We're going to start. As soon as it dries out, we'll be at it. So no rest for the wicked, I guess. Get right to the next crop. So.
Speaking of no rest, another deal going on here in Iowa has been just talk about carbon solutions and carbon sequestration, helping reduce some of that carbon intensity scores that we get for things like sustainable aviation fuel. And I wanted to go into detail with some of the work that you guys are doing with Smart Carbon Network. Just as a introductory aspect, can you tell us a little bit more about Smart Carbon Network?
Yeah, we're a 501c6 coalition. What that means is we don't lobby on particular bills like the one you just saw come through the legislature in Iowa or the one in South Dakota. What we'll do is we still visit with legislators, definitely have connections there. But what we're there to do is be an educational coalition. We talk about the benefits to it and try to make available any information to answer their questions. So we're a little bit of a different coalition than some of the other ones where they're out lobbying for particular bills. Of course, we're fully behind carbon capture in the whole Midwest. It's vital to the ethanol industry, and not just the ethanol industry, but when you start looking at baseload electricity down the road, they're going to have to do something for carbon capture because that's the best way to get their carbon scores down. And I can go on and on. There's several different industries that are going to be affected over the years. And so it's really vital to the Midwest to be looking at this. And that's what we try to do. We try to make sure people understand the economic importance of it.
How would you describe the landscape of carbon capture in Iowa at this point?
It's been interesting to watch it. There was so much emotion in it to start with. I think there were so many people that we were visiting with that just didn't understand it. And once you talk to them and walk them through it, of what it actually is, the safety of it, the economics of it, and that it's a pipeline. It's not. I guess how I explain it always is, on our farm we've got high lines and we've got pipelines, and the high lines, we've taken machinery out on those. You catch those poles. Pipeline, we know they're there because at one end we have a shutoff valve. The other end it has one of those, one of the pipes standing up, one of the signs standing up. Please don't be stupid here, and that's kind of how we see it. And otherwise, you don't even notice it. And so to have a pipeline go through, you still can utilize the land. I don't think people really understand that. And the safety, and we've really tried to go over that. Your question was, how's the landscape changed? I honestly believe the emotional part has died down a little bit. I know people might not believe that, but I think people are more in a we want to understand it phase. You still have people who are totally for it, totally against it, but you have a vast middle that's just now, I think, really wanting to understand, what do we have to gain and lose by this? And so I think it's more of an opportunity to talk through it at this point in time.
I take it one of the big aspects that causes a lot of the big emotions was the eminent domain issue, having people have their land forcibly taken in some way or respect. If we remove that from the equation, or at least are able to talk to the people that this might go, the pipeline might go through, what does that conversation then become?
It actually comes down to, do you believe we need to have carbon capture? And I've still argued that quite a while already, that is it about that? The people that don't understand it are, it's about eminent domain, but it also is they don't believe in it, a lot of them that are in that situation. I'm not saying that good or bad. It's just a matter of they've already made their mind up. They don't want that project to go through. And sometimes it's particular, it's a certain company, which is another issue. But, it's really been interesting as far as that goes, because it is about our land. I mean, I get that because, we're here, we've got farmland. We've had to deal with the high lines. We've dealt with the pipelines, and it's part of your heart, part of your soul, this land. So you want to make sure you're fairly treated, that ground is being taken care of, that's going to be put back the way it needs to be put back so you can continue to farm it. And you have to really feel that it's doing something for your community, your state, that there's a true benefit for everybody, and also yourself, because you need to be fairly compensated for it. So the eminent domain part, how it's been used to some degree as far as how it's been presented, we need to try to get that tone back, because that's really, nobody wants that. That's a no-win situation as eminent domain. And so I think we all have to step back from that a little bit, realizing that I always say, let's talk about why we need it and then how we're going to get there. And eminent domain might be a small piece of that, but there's a lot of other ways we can get there before eminent domain.
I want to go back to what you said on if they believe in it. And why is it important for a farmer or a landowner in some respect to believe in it, when the ultimate goal is that it's essentially a new market? We're creating a product through carbon capture, the lower carbon intensity scores influencing something that we can sell. Do you really need to believe in the end goal, or do they just not believe that it will be a product?
I think there's some of it's hard to put your arms around that this is a product, this is a commodity, which it is. And I think that's part of it. And then I think it's a matter of, you have to talk the economics of it. There's so much emotion around the political side, the environmental side. And what we as a coalition have always tried to do is, let's talk the economics of it. Let's talk about the states that are starting to require low carbon ethanol to be sold in their state. Let's look at SAF, sustainable aviation fuel. That's another one where we have to supply that low carbon market because otherwise somebody else will. And that's we can go into that in a little bit as far as, how they're doing it already down in Georgia with their plants. That's their ethanol is coming from South America because it's low carbon ethanol. And that's kind of a sad thing. And that's when we talk about the economics, when we talk about basis change of easily 50 cents a bushel, if we cannot sell our ethanol to our consumers. So it's consumer driven. And that's, I think, the biggest thing is the economics is there's a market out there for it. So how can we take advantage of it? Make sure we continue to grow the ethanol market, and also the businesses that come off from carbon capture. So
I'm glad you brought that up in terms of the competitiveness of it, because ultimately a lot of the pipeline conversation has been, we're going to take what we have here and then send it over to, I believe, the Dakotas in some way where they have the capacity and the land to sequester the carbon. Now, if we don't have that access, if we don't have the ability to do that, does that just make the people who are in the Dakotas have an advantage when it comes to their crops, or maybe other neighbors in the Corn Belt that can just sequester their carbon in state?
Oh, it's a huge advantage for those who have where they can sequester the carbon, or they already have an outlet for it. Example is Illinois with ADM down Decatur, that they're able to sequester carbon. They have been sequestering carbon. Now they're looking at putting a sustainable aviation fuel plant in Illinois, obviously infrastructure wise, so it's close to Chicago airports. And then also because they can get low carbon ethanol out of that Decatur facility, because that's low carbon. They don't have to pipe the carbon anywhere because they're able to sequester it right at that location. So that's a huge advantage. You see that over in Nebraska too, that they've already got the pipe in on over like 390 miles of pipe already in. That moved them greatly forward, where they're going to be able to get it up to North Dakota very easily. That project, they'll be sequestering carbon, I believe I was told late third quarter or early fourth quarter, they'll be sequestering. So it puts us at a disadvantage, and we don't know if we actually have a place to store it, but it's going to take 5 years to figure that out. There are a couple places like in southwestern Iowa that might have the capacity to store carbon, but it puts us at a disadvantage because it all has to go out of the state.
And you need the infrastructure.
Yes, and that infrastructure is what's causing the issue, because it's a whole lot of pipe to go in the ground to move that across, and we're relying on other states, as you know, that right now South Dakota put a total ban on using eminent domain for carbon capture pipelines. So even if we're moving, we're able to get everything in place to do it. You still have to get it to North Dakota somehow. So it's so reliant on other states too. For Iowa, here we are, the largest ethanol producer, but we don't have a place to store the carbon. And as that market moves to a low carbon market, that's going to be it could be a real challenge if we're not able to take something like this on.
So let's take it from that Iowa level. We hinted at it at the very beginning of our conversation, and that was there's some legislation, some bills going on around the state. What is the status of that, and what does it mean as we move forward in promoting potentially lower carbon ethanols as the number one ethanol producer in the nation?
Yeah, you mean as far as the Iowa bill in particular? Yes. Yeah, and I might be peeking down a little bit because I want to make sure I get some of my numbers right, if that's
no worries on my side.
Yeah, but I think it was House File 639 is actually what the number is on it going through. And what this does in Iowa, it doesn't necessarily totally eliminate eminent domain, but it makes a lot more hoops to jump through before the company can use it. One of them is they have to prove that they're a common carrier, which means they cannot own the product and everything all the way to the end. They have to have an unrelated third party in there, and that makes it where it's a common carrier. The insurance part is another part of this bill that's went to the governor. It's going to require a very high level of insurance to make sure that, and that's where I'm kind of looking down, because it covers for them, and it also covers for any affected landowners, and to reimburse them also for premiums due to that pipeline being there. So they're really up that up. They had some things on the Utilities Commission also, but I think the big thing was, those potential, I think those will be two big hurdles to jump as far as trying to get this project through, or any project, because we keep thinking of the Summit project in Iowa, but you also have, I'll use the example of ADM. They have two plants within 100 miles of the Illinois border. And, will they try to do something? And you have, several facilities that are not really being able to be connected yet. So I think, are there going to be other projects that come forth? And so you got to look at it in a broad picture, and how does this affect it? And also on this particular legislation, how does that affect, because it's talking about hazardous chemical pipelines, hazardous material pipelines. Well, there's a lot of other hazardous materials going through pipelines. So how's that going to affect it for anhydrous ammonia, LP gas, things like that? And I haven't really heard an answer on that yet. That this could have broad ramifications beyond just carbon capture pipelines.
Definitely seems like there's plenty to continue monitoring, and would love to continue chatting with you again. Joe Heinrich, CEO of Smart Carbon Network, also a farmer in East Central Iowa. Thank you so much for talking to us on Farm Here Daily.
Thank you so much, and look forward to visiting with you again in the near future when we see what happens with signatures and a few other things around the states.
Custom window treatments are a small upgrade that have a big impact. No better time to shop than now at Blinds.com's Memorial Day Mega Sale. Blinds.com invented a better way to shop for window treatments, completely online with upfront pricing, no showroom markups, no salespeople in your home. Choose from classic shutters to outdoor shades and more, all backed by our 100% satisfaction guarantee. Shop Blinds.com's Memorial Day Mega Sale now. Save up to 50% site-wide, plus a free measure. Rules and restrictions may apply.
You are listening to Farm Here Daily. We'll have more conversations on the way, but let's take a look at the Wednesday market close. And some green on the board in grains today. July corn up 6.5 cents at $4.61. September rising 7.5 cents at $4.42 3/4. Soybeans in July 9 3/4 cents higher at $10.62 3/4, with August increasing 8 3/4 at $10.59. Soybean meal in July $1.50 a ton in the green at $294.10. July wheat up 3 1/4 at $5.49 1/4, with September rising 4 cents at $5.63 3/4. In livestock market close for Wednesday, live cattle in June 97 cents a hundredweight more at $214.15. August up 80 cents at $208.65. Feeder cattle in May 30 cents a hundredweight more at $296.30. August down $1.07 a hundredweight at $296.42. Lean hogs in June 50 cents a hundredweight in the red at $99.52. July down $1.02, $102.52 a hundredweight. That is the Wednesday market close. This is Farm Here Daily.
Your snacking routine can get a little dull. Time for an Oikos remix. Like a crunchy storm of sea salt praline pretzels, dark chocolate, and butter toffee, showering down into a smooth, creamy yogurt. Enjoy 3 Oikos Remix varieties with epic mix-ins and 11 grams of complete protein per 4.5-ounce serving. See remixyogurt.com.
And we have with us on Farm Here Daily, Terry Basol, a ISU Extension agronomist for Northeast Iowa. Thank you so much for joining us again, Terry. And how is your part of the state doing? You all wrapped up with planting?
Pretty much, yep. All the corn is in the ground, and there's might be a few acres left for soybeans, but for the most part, we're really close to having that wrapped up as well. So everything's looking good in regards to timing, planting dates, and you know, getting your maximum potential yield for the growing season here. So we're looking good in that regard.
How's emergence going then in that northeastern part of the state?
For the most part, pretty decent. Some of the very early acres that were planted had some crusting issues. So we did have some isolated areas where there were some replants and things like that. But overall, really pretty good. So an emergence from that point, pretty decent. We're looking at anywhere from growth stages from just being planted to V I'd say about V2. I was in a field on Monday morning that was planted pretty early south of Waterloo there, and that was sitting at V4 already. So that's the largest corn that I've been in so far. Soybeans anywhere from being planted up to I'd say about VC. We get some of that, some warm temperatures and with that moisture that we got, everything is really going to go here. So, which is really, really good. So we're sitting really well for the most part. Yep.
We got some rain over the last couple of days. Did you guys see that in northeastern Iowa as well?
We did. You guys kind of got a shot coming through on, say Sunday night to Monday morning, a little bit more than we got. We kind of got a little bit of a drizzle Monday morning, and then it stopped. But then we got the rest of the system coming through here that kind of hit statewide. So between Monday through today, we've averaged right around 2 inches. So it's been good. Isolated areas, a little bit more or less, but we've gotten a tick over 2 inches here at the research farm, which has been very, very good. So,
and it's been more on the slow side, so you haven't really had any issues with ponding or anything like that.
Right. It's waved the magic wand. It came just the way that we would like to see it come, nice and slow, so it soaks in and it doesn't run off and it doesn't pond. So all of it is taken advantage of by the crops and everything else that needs it here in Northeast Iowa. So.
Now, in terms of pest pressure, bugs, weeds, have you seen much of that pop up over the last couple of weeks in the northeastern part of the state?
A couple of them. Like for weeds, we were pretty dry here, of course, because we didn't have a whole lot since very early April. And so a lot of the pre-emerges that got put down were put on dry soil, and we didn't have any moisture to help activate those products. So we've seen some germination of weeds and things like that kind of blow through that zone because there wasn't any moisture to get them activated and help for the weed control that we want. So we have seen some of that. Bugs, for the most part, alfalfa is starting to be cut for the first cutting. And I've been looking at a field here on the research farm that we have for staging and things like that. And that's been looking good. Usually you kind of get a little bit concerned about maybe some alfalfa weevil primarily out here for that first cutting or so. And it's looking really good. And it's close enough that if we do see much right now, we don't have to worry because that first cutting will take care of it. So unless it's, that usually works really well that way for timing all of that. So I did hear a little bit of some dingy cutworm feeding in northeast Iowa a little bit. I had a consultant call me and talk to me a little bit about that. But dingy, for the most part, you don't have to worry as much about cutting for that. So they can do a lot of feeding and things like that, causing some defoliation and stuff on the corn. But usually the corn can outgrow that feeding, and it's usually not a problem unless it's severe, and then maybe consideration, but usually not a worry. So,
are there any disease pressures you're watching for when it comes to some of that soil exposure?
Well, early on, this when we had those cold, wet soil conditions here early on in the first planting go around, we were a little concerned about some seedling diseases and things because that corn stays in the ground a little bit longer than you want it to. And it can take in, some more exposure on seedling diseases. But overall, it did pretty well. And so from this point forward, now we just kind of wait to see what the rest of the growing season does and what, kind of what gets impacted, with that. So, so far so good. So.
Any interesting fields you've traipsed through over the last week or two that you found particularly interesting?
Oh, just kind of your normal. There's been every now and then a replant consideration, something like that we've done. We did have some a field that was, or 2 or 3 fields that were sprayed last week post emerge with a pre involved with it and stuff that and it was warm last week. You're talking 85 degrees, not usually used to that this time of the year, right? So some of the additives, the adjuvant package that was put in with with that application kind of gave the a little bit of foliar phyto to the corn leaves and things like that, but nothing to be strongly concerned with, because the new growth coming out was nice and green and looking good. So it was just kind of a situation where a perfect storm where you had the warm temperatures and then it also had a little atrazine, about a pound of atrazine mixed in with it. So you add all that together and you can sometimes get a little bit of crop response from that, but it overcomes it. It outgrows that in 2 to 3 weeks. You'll drive by the field and it'll look awesome. So very good for weed control though, because those combinations of products along with the temperature of the day really helped for getting those weeds that were up for post-emerge application. So
yeah, especially since we're dealing with kind of a dwindling toolbox when it comes to some of that weed control. It's good to know that some of those things can work.
You bet.
Terry Basol, a Northeast Iowa agronomist with Iowa State University Extension and Outreach. Extension is doing some field days here in a couple of weeks. Tell me a little bit about some of the stuff that you guys are up to.
We're really excited for our spring field day here at the Research Farm by Nashua, which is the Northeast Research and Demonstration Farm here. Wednesday, June 18th is our first spring field day here. And so we're excited to have Iowa Secretary of Agriculture, Mike Naig, here, and he'll be the keynote speaker. And he'll be talking about accelerating conservation through partnerships and cost share. And then we'll also have a complimentary lunch here. And then in the afternoon at 1, we've got Richard Roth, our Extension Nitrogen Science Specialist, talking about nitrogen management for the 25 growing season. And then following him will be our new weed scientist, Wes Everman, and he'll be talking about weed management considerations and updates for 2025. So really excited to have everybody here to be able to do that. We're also going to have a drone workshop on the 24th of July. And so a lot of the intro kind of stuff to go with for as far as in-house educational meeting. And then in the afternoon, we will actually have hands-on flying for those attendants to come to it. So really excited to be able to have that opportunity for everybody that's might be either just starting to get into it or might be considering some of those kind of things, to be able to kind of get a hands-on kind of a thing. So combination is kind of nice that way, to have kind of like a meeting room thing to start out with, go over, all that kind of stuff, and then go outside and hopefully the weather's behaving itself so we can have some hands-on drone flying. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Exciting stuff on the way. We have Terry Basol, ISU Extension Agronomist for Northeast Iowa. Appreciate having you on to talk about what's going on in your part of the state.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
This is Farm Here Daily, a field forward podcast. Thank you for listening. Again, in order to continue to produce this type of local Iowa content, we would love to have you join our community. So please follow the podcast as well as our social media channels at Field Forward Pod. Additionally, you can find me on social media at Geiger Reports, as well as WHO TV Channel 13 every weekday in their morning and noon hour programs. Again, I am your host, David Geiger, and I'll be back again tomorrow, everybody.